dear students, in this class or this part we'll study the next part of the photosynthesis chapter, that is in which we will study the opening and closing of stomata through which CO2 is diffused in. Second, the mechanism of photosynthesis and the other topics. The first of all, it is the opening and closing of stomata. Opening and closing of stomata. Now, just first of all, we draw the structure. Like suppose this is the bean shaped structure, that is the chloroplast, the guard cell, in which there is the nucleus, and there are a small these structures which are chloroplasts, then the cytoplasmic structures here. Now, this, as you know, that stomata are present on the surface of leaf, that is in the epidermal layer of the leaf and on young green stems. Suppose this is the lower epidermis. Now there is the opening, this opening. If you will have to label it, then this opening is known as a stoma. Stoma is the singular word. We will not write here stomata because stomata is plural. So while writing in explanation in theoretical part, we use the term stomata collectively. But here for the labeling, we have marked a single structure, so it will be stoma. Now, this is guard cell. Guard cell. In guard cell, this is inner wall, which is the inner thicker wall. This is outer wall. Outer wall. This is thick layer, thick wall. This is thin wall. Now, this is the nucleus. And these are other epidermal cells. Epidermal cells. Question is asked that what is the name of this figure? So, name of figure is known as stomatal apparatus. Stomatal apparatus. And now, how many other cells are surrounding this structure? So, other cells surrounding the structure. In this, while answering this question, you will have to count the other epidermal cells. That is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and 6. So these are the other surrounding cells, epidermal cells. This structure lies on the surface of leaf. Now, as you know that stomata is meant for diffusion of carbon dioxide for photosynthesis. During daytime, stomata opens. Carbon dioxide diffuses in and photosynthesis takes place. Through that stomata, opened stomata, also the process of transpiration and gaseous exchange for respiration takes place. Now, students, how is this opening and closing regulated? Because during daytime it opens and during the night it closes. So, there are two types or two mechanisms explained for it. That is, on the basis of glucose concentration, glucose, that is sugar concentration. Now, this is a very simple thing. Just you have to hear the statements in sequence, and you will write the repeated answer for the next another one also. For example, that is, how is the opening and closing of stomata regulated? During daytime, photosynthesis takes place in the guard cells surrounding the stoma, in which glucose is produced, and glucose is soluble in water. So in sequence you can write, during the daytime photosynthesis takes place in the guard cells surrounding the stoma, producing glucose which is soluble in water. The concentration of cell sap becomes hypertonic with respect to the surrounding epidermal cells, that is these cells. As a result, since its cell sap becomes hypertonic and here it is hypotonic, so endoosmosis takes place. As a result, guard cells becomes turgid and its inner thicker wall bulges outward. This is like this. It opens, it bulges outward, opening the stoma. Means this part bulges outward. It is a thick wall, it is thin wall. So there is difference in curvature. This bulges outward, opening the stoma. It happens during the daytime. Now, during the night, photosynthesis stops. The glucose present in it is either converted into a starch for storage or translocated to other parts of the plant. As a result, here the cell sap becomes hypotonic with respect to the surrounding epidermal cells, and exosmosis takes place. The guard cells return to its normal shape and stoma gets closed, that is this form. This is the closed stoma. Although it remains partially opened through which gaseous diffusion for respiration takes place. So it is the opening and closing of stomata on the basis of glucose or sugar concentration. The second part is on the basis of K plus ion pump theory. It is also explained on the similar basis. That is, during daytime, photosynthesis takes place in the guard cells, producing ATP. Now, this ATP or energy is used to absorb K plus ion from the surrounding cell by active absorption. Hence, the cell sap of guard cell becomes hypertonic than the surrounding cells. It results in the endoosmosis process. Guard cell becomes turgid, and again in the similar way the inner thicker wall bulges outward, opening the stoma. It happens during the day. Again, during the night, photosynthesis stops. K plus ion gradually diffuse outward into the other cells. The cell sap of guard cell become hypotonic. Exosmosis takes place and the guard cell returns to normal shape, closing the stoma. So the stoma is opened or closed on the two bases. One on the basis of glucose concentration and another on the basis of potassium ion concentration. So it takes place, that is, it opens during the day to allow diffusion of CO2 for photosynthesis, and during the night it gets closed because there is no photosynthesis. Now, in next part we have to study here about the mechanism of photosynthesis. Mechanism of photosynthesis. That is how does this process occur in the chloroplast, in the leaf, or in any green part of the plant. Photosynthesis takes place in two parts. As we have mentioned earlier, in chloroplast there are two major structures. One is thylakoid or collectively grana, and another is stroma. So in these two parts, the different processes takes place. As a whole, it will produce glucose or sugar, that is a carbohydrate. The first phase in photosynthesis is the light reaction. Light reaction. For light reaction, we also use the term photosynthetic phase. Photosynthetic phase, and on the basis of name of the scientist who studied it, it is also known as Hill's reaction. Now this is a very simple process, although just we are going to study it in a simple points, but this is a complex mechanism of photosynthesis. As the name suggests, light reaction means there are few terms which will be able to explain it clearly. That is, it is the light dependent phase. Light dependent phase, that is using light energy. Using light energy. Sometimes we also say that it takes place in the presence of sunlight. This is not the sufficient answer. We can use that this takes place by using light energy, because the dark reaction which takes place in the stroma accompanies this process, that also takes place during the daytime, but inner light energy is not used in that process, hence it was known as dark reaction. So we use using light energy. We write using light energy, first point. Second, this reaction, as you have studied earlier, that is, it takes place in the grana. Grana. We have studied earlier also that if the question is asked what is the function of thylakoid or what is the function of grana, then both of them have same answer, that is it is the site of light reaction. But when we have to write directly, then we will take collective term grana. So it takes place in the grana. And the next important point here, oxidation of water takes place. Oxidation of water takes place. Oxidation of water takes place in light reaction phase, in the first phase of it. Now, light reaction which takes place in the presence of sunlight or using solar energy completes into 5 main steps. Sometimes it is asked that write the events taking place during light reaction. So light reaction takes place in 5 basic steps. In first part, students, the chlorophyll absorbs solar energy and use it for other reactions. So the first step is the absorption of sunlight and activation of chlorophyll. Activation of chlorophyll. That is, in general, chlorophyll remain inactive, but when it absorbs sunlight, it becomes active. Actually, chlorophyll now takes serves as the catalyst for the next process taking place. Second step. Now, using the light energy of the sun, chlorophyll helps in splitting of water molecule into H plus and OH minus ion, and this is termed as photolysis. photolysis of water. As the name suggests, students, photo means light, lysis means a splitting or breakdown. So the water is broken down with the help of light energy, that is called photolysis of water. Suppose you have to define photolysis, then you write a splitting of water molecule into H plus and OH minus ions with the help of light energy is called photolysis of water. We will not write directly that a splitting of water into hydrogen and oxygen. No, because hydrogen and oxygen gases are formed by subsequent processes. But in this part only, water is ionized H plus and OH minus ions with the help of light energy. So this is the photolysis of water. Now, the next step. This OH minus ion loses its electron and becomes neutral, OH, but being unstable, it reassembles to form water molecule and oxygen. So, the next step is formation of molecular oxygen. Formation of molecular oxygen. Now you see that OH minus ion during a chemical process, it loses its one electron and becomes neutral. But it is unstable because according to the chemistry, oxygen has only 7 electrons, although by sharing it has 2 electrons, which is stable, but it is unstable as a whole. So these hydroxide components get reassembled, combined together. As a result, it changes into 2H2O plus O2, and this is the molecular oxygen that is released into the atmosphere through stomata. So students, we have studied earlier that in photosynthesis, life supporting gas oxygen is released. Question is asked that what is the source of oxygen released in photosynthesis? Then it is water. Source of oxygen released in photosynthesis is water, although both the raw materials, that is water and carbon dioxide, contain oxygen, but the oxygen released to the atmosphere comes from water. Question ये भी हो सकता है students कि what is from where does oxygen released in photosynthesis come? So this is from water. Now, as a next step, the electron, now you see here electron is released. What happens to this electron? This electron, through the series of chemical reaction, gets transferred from one component to another component, one compound to another compound through a chain called electron transport chain. That is, in short, we can write ETC. And then this electron is received by H plus ion. And this H plus ion combines with another compound which serves as the carrier of hydrogen, that is NADP. So we say formation of reducing agent. Formation of reducing agent. Now it is NADP. This is the compound present in the grana, in the thylakoid. The full form of it is nicotinamide adenine dinucleotide phosphate. Adenine, NADP. This is a compound which serves as a carrier of hydrogen. Now it combines with H plus ion and electron received by electron transport chain and it forms NADPH. This is the reducing agent. This is the reducing agent. So now this reducing agent is formed. It will pass into the stroma where reduction of carbon dioxide will take place and finally, ultimately, glucose will be produced. So in glucose, hydrogen comes from water molecule carried by NADPH where reduction takes place. The next step in light reaction is photophosphorylation. Photophosphorylation. Now, first of all, phosphorylation. Phosphorylation, it is the process of converting ADP into ATP. This is phosphorylation. ADP into ATP. But this conversion takes place, that is ADP is a low energy grade compound. It stores chemical energy by taking inorganic phosphate. So from diphosphate it turns to triphosphate and stores energy. ATP is known as energy currency of cell. Energy currency of cell means in the cells energy is stored in this form which is used for different processes. Now photo for light means this process will take place with the help of light energy. That is, now we can define the conversion of low energy compound ADP into high energy compound ATP using light energy and inorganic phosphate. We write like this. This is a phosphate and I for inorganic, that is coming from inorganic compounds or salts. So this is the photophosphorylation. Now this is the step of light reaction. First, the absorption of solar energy, sunlight by chlorophyll. Second, photolysis of water. Third, formation of molecular oxygen, then formation of reducing agent, and finally it is photophosphorylation, that is conversion of ADP into ATP using inorganic phosphate and light energy is called photophosphorylation. Now students, the products from the light reaction pass into the stroma. Light reaction took place in the grana and now the dark reaction, the next phase will take place in the stroma. So the products from light reaction, that is ATP, NADPH, will diffuse or pass into the grana where the remaining process will take place. So the next part is dark reaction. Dark reaction, also known as biosynthetic phase. Biosynthetic phase. Here we had used photosynthetic phase, light dependent phase. Here it is biosynthetic phase, that is biologically important substance glucose is formed in this process. We can again explain it on the similar basis in as we have studied in light reaction. Like it is the light independent phase. Light independent phase means although it accompanies light reaction, it is performed during the daytime but does not use light energy. Without using light energy, in this phase light energy is not required. Now next part, what is its location? Site of the reaction takes place in the stroma of chloroplast. It takes place in the stroma of chloroplast. And finally, lastly, that is in this process, reduction of carbon dioxide to glucose takes place. Glucose takes place. Students, the product of dark reaction is mainly glucose. In our syllabus, the mechanism of dark reaction is not given, is not required, but in order to represent it in the simple way, we can take it collectively as a whole, and the reactions which include certain chemicals, the first chemical required in this step is RUBP. RUBP, that is ribulose bisphosphate. This is a cyclic reaction, cyclic phase. In this part, cyclic phase, also known as Calvin cycle, this is the chemical which initiates the process, starts the process, and again obtained as a product at the end of the process. So, we are summarizing the process here in one step only. RUBP plus 6CO2 plus 18 ATP plus 12 NADPH plus 12H plus 12E overall. Again you will get RUBP. अभी हमने बताया, ये समराइज कर रहे हैं पूरे प्रोसेस को, पूरे साइक्लिक इवेंट को. सो दिस वाज यूज्ड टू इनिशिएट द प्रोसेस, अगेन इट इज ऑब्टेन्ड. प्लस this is reduced to glucose C6H12O6 plus 18 ADP. It again releases inorganic phosphate plus 12 NADP. So this is the process of photosynthesis. So the final product of photosynthesis is glucose. Now students, this was all about mechanism of photosynthesis. So what are the products of photosynthesis? Products: light reaction. Light reaction, it was oxygen, ATP, NADPH and water. Dark reaction. Dark reaction, mainly glucose. Mainly glucose. So this is all about the mechanism of photosynthesis. In next part, we will study about the fate of the products, the adaptation in the leaves, how is it adapted for the photosynthesis, and then the factors affecting the rate of photosynthesis. Later on in the next part, we will study the experiments based on photosynthesis.